for the first time ever.
Got it. All right. What are you using to do it? Zoom or that other thing?
Zoom.
Cool. I like it. I like it. The video, you know what? We could even maybe down the road in a short piece, do Patreon. Do Patreon.
Let's do some Patreon right now.
Exactly. Yeah, do Patreon, and our supporters will get to see the video instantly, and then the podcast people get it when it is scheduled.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great idea.
All right, so for me, this is kind of a heavy night to be courting it, not because of this night, but because of like the breadth of the week has been a lot of death and anger, and as they say in the Om community, the down.
Yeah, the down.
Me fucking crazy. What have you?
Let's talk about the death first. That seems like the most happy thing to talk about.
Yeah. All right. Well, I described.
Because we talked about it last week, but we didn't say who.
Right.
And
then, should we keep it that way?
Well, it just seems like we're outing someone, but I guess back then that we were just protecting people. But I don't know.
I don't know either. Plus the fact that this is going to be public weeks down the road. Yeah.
The point is, we're both facing the reality of people we know dying. One person died, and then we know that the person who's very close to them is going to die very soon because they are not taking care of themselves. They are doing everything to die that they possibly can. Right?
And they have been for years.
Right. And there's no social services, but we don't have to give up on the miracle.
Right. Which I've been with for years, because I've said goodbye to this individual many times over the past 6 years. I think I said that last week. So I understand, like, here, there's all these people kind of coming out of the woodwork, with a lot of drama and like, whatever. Where were you when this may have had some impact? Because now it seems like it's pretty much the end. And it drives me fucking nuts that there's all this great energy and empathy when it's passé.
When what's passé?
It has no impact to the individuals involved on the wrong side of the coin. The one who passed away and the one who's at death's door. Did the one who already passed hear all these accolades from these individuals when it would have had some meaning for them?
Got it. Well, and we should say that person died an untimely death from the result of an inopportune health condition thing.
Well, so a brain aneurysm, and we could say that. And it was a sudden thing, but that's what I mean. Like, so with that in mind, if you're feeling some vibe for someone, tell them.
Yes. By all means, love needs to be expressed real time, in the moment, every time, all the time.
Yes. And then another one of our close friends who's in this circle emailed me yesterday. We had a brief conversation about a person's right to take their life, to end it, to say that I'm done now. And I absolutely support that 110%. And as I told our friend, I may, like if you come to me and you say, I'm done, and this is what I'm doing now, I may challenge it and bring up, a conversation if you're into it. If you're not into it, I'm not gonna. But when it's time, like if that's where you are, I have too much respect for your intelligence it's just, I believe in people having 100% responsibility for their life, which means they have the right to decide I'm done.
Well, the reality is we don't get to decide anyway. Even if we decide, no, it's too soon, we can't stop them.
Right. So, but again, I guess I
guess we could arrest them, which is kind of what went down last night.
Right. Like there's so much
Let's
drama
put a
involved.
72-hour hold on this person who really just doesn't want to be bothered anymore. Let's make
Yeah,
their last hours on Earth be in a in a mental 72-hour hold with Thorazine in their bloodstream.
exactly. Like that's really going to change their mind about the situation. And here's the thing. One person who's very close to me in my life um, attempted to end it. And here's this other person in our life. Oh, and another. So there's three people, counting this one individual who's just talking about it. He, this, the conversation yesterday wasn't based on I'm going to. It was more an intellectual
It was an
conversation.
abstract conversation, but someone misinterpreted it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I they're logical. There's a lot of logic. One looks around the world. Like my sister just sent me this article today by an ex-Marine about Afghanistan. And in essence, he said, we all saw this 10 years ago. We all realized we were over in Afghanistan for nothing, that people were losing their family members for nothing on both sides. That unless the poppy slash heroin opiate industry was nipped, the Taliban was just going to lay low, keep earning big buckets of money. When the time came, they'd have tons of money to finance what we see happening now. So my sister sent me
How
this.
does that relate to what we're talking about?
Okay, it relates like this because what's happening in Afghanistan is atrocious. And then what happened in Haiti with the earthquake and the floods coming. Like you don't have to look far, and everywhere you look, there's darkness and shadow and pain and agony and madness. So there's a lot of logic to why am I continuing to attempt to survive. I just did an ad for a manufacturing company that's advertising jobs at $13 an hour for the swing shift and graveyard shift. How can a fucker do a family on $13 an hour and those hours? You know what I mean? Like it's just, I get it. I totally get someone going, you know what? I'm done.
Well, you know what, though? The thing about it is, in order to have this conversation with the person who's sort of originating this, you're going to get in a lot of deep trouble because they don't actually believe in what I'm about to say, which is the karma of taking your own life is such that you don't actually get to avoid all of the dark problems. You just get them again later when you come into life again. So the idea is to face what you face and be loving, strong, brave, committed, open, willing to feel, and honest with everyone around you until the moment that it's not possible to do so anymore. Now, if you're a cancer patient and you know you're going to die in 6 months, I'm not saying don't take the euthanasia when you're finally having that moment, where it's obvious that it's just going to be suffering or coma. The other thing is, and I wasn't going to personalize this, but my mom committed assisted suicide 8 years ago, and it was just happened to be like the week of August, which is when we're recording this, August 15th.
Oh wow.
So this issue is very present for me. I was, there the week before, and my sisters were there when she did it. And, I was happy that she was doing it until it started happening. And then a whole other set of emotions came in. Right. And I was grateful that she was able to choose that. And she was in a situation with her cancer that if she didn't, she could lapse into a coma, and when she lapses into a coma, a whole other state thing triggers, and they have to keep her alive, and there's all this other stuff, because no one can actually give you the lethal dose. You have to give it to yourself.
Well, I think that's changed from the 8 years, because I believe now you can have legal paperwork in place that is stating if it's machinery that's keeping you alive.
Yeah, but I'm talking about if you're a cancer patient. And
so she could have,
coma,
right? Okay,
you could still be breathing,
right?
But, right. Anyway, so the idea that for lesser reasons, like you're just tired of working for $13 an hour, or you live in a house.
Yes, that sounds like hell. That sounds like cancer to me, brain cancer.
Well, I'm sure the suffering's just as real for the person. I'm not belittling their suffering on any level, but there's this layer where, from a spiritual point of view, my particular beliefs are that.
Here comes the back scratcher.
Yes. See? I can't think if my traps are itching. But now, of course, I've been shamed into not doing it.
Oh, that didn't have to be shame. That's it.
No,
I'm gonna off
I was
myself.
Just adding to the thing to be, so now I can get to be the victim and you have even more attention.
That's it. I'm jumping off the roof because of the way I feel from shaming you. Mark, it's your fault. Do you have nightmares at night?
Then I'm going to start drinking heavily.
Do you have nightmares at night with your mom where she's going, Mark, why do you do this to me, Mark? Mark, why do you do this? Is that too close? Too much?
No, I didn't have nightmares about her doing that. But, when we did live together, it was a little bit annoying to hear her complain from the closet. Let me out! I promise I won't serve lima beans again.
That's it. We're soundproofing that damn thing tomorrow. All right. So you were going and talking about your mom's choice and that effect. You didn't realize how it would affect.
So I was really grateful that she was choosing it.
Mm-hmm.
And, she had a master's in humanities and Buddhist studies. And so she knew fully well that there's a point at which you're not supposed to take your own life, according to that Buddhist philosophy. And she grappled with that throughout her whole illness. And there was a point where it was like, okay, the bodhisattva vow of reducing the suffering of everyone, it's like she did that for herself. She just chose not to suffer. And so I don't experience her as having any karma beyond that, right? So there's a point at which it makes a lot of sense, both financially, emotionally, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what's weird is that you might get there, but your friends and family aren't there with you yet. And they're like, dude, I'm not ready for you to go.
Right, which happens a lot. And I don't believe we can make that individualized choice. That's my main point. I can't determine a person's emotional state. And so it's really up to them to decide whether they're done or not. And
this is where we go here
with drugs. Like, for instance, this going back to our friend, I'm totally at peace with where he's at.
Drinking himself to death.
Yeah. And it's in part because he, there's a whole lot of commotion going on downstairs, but they, okay, I can do this. Yeah.
Just so you know, on Moped Outlaws, we don't edit out anything. So you're hearing it live as it's going down with all the distractions included.
Did you hear all the background chaos?
No, it just sounded like voices in the distance.
Okay. So I ultimately came to a place of supporting this individual, actually both individuals, which I think I mentioned last week, because they kept coming back to this point where they wanted to continue drinking and being who they are. And for me to love them, that's got to be okay, because that's who they are. That's their choice. That's what they're choosing. Now, one of our friends who has a generic debilitating disease that there was a point.
Not generic, genetic.
Genetic, thank you. Genetically manufactured in a lab close to you.
I have a generic disease.
Yeah, it's called COVID 2020. Oh dear. Mark with all his medical instruments. Pretty soon you're going to be brushing your teeth, taking a bath. So I've been with someone who was saying they were done and going to take their life. And I didn't believe that was really going on, but there came a moment where I was like, all right, then do it. Because if that's what you want, I support it. And in that moment, then the person decided not to. I think ultimately, like, I desire for all of us to be grateful that we're alive. And that's my personal challenge in this life, to be grateful that I'm alive. That's my spiritual journey. It's a very individualized thing.
Well, I think there's a really salient point here, which is that, on some level, a person who is emotionally no longer desiring to be alive, but has all of the basic physical capacities, should consider, or is considered by our culture, to be mentally ill if they choose to take their life. And therefore,
right,
they are subject to the usurpation of their right to do so.
5150.
And then sometimes people who've been in that situation, who try to take their life and then who don't succeed and come back, are a possibility for life, and they're grateful that that's not what happened. So it's a difficult thing to argue that when a person decides that they're ready, that that's actually a sane decision. And when you remove medical obstacles, it gets even more dicey around whether sanity, or whether you're actually, what is the word they use, of sound mind when you state that.
Right.
I think when you have you're going to have an online debate, right? There's going to be a podcast or conversation with this person about it. So
I've heard that. I didn't know that was going to happen. But I saw, all right, that sounds like a good episode. All right, I'll do that.
It's not going to be on Moped Outlaws, but if we know about it and it actually happens, we'll let you know. So just come to mopedoutlaws.com or Moped Outlaws.
It'd be on Moped Outlaws, but boy, it would be volatile.
Could we be funny about it? I don't know. Like, this brings up a whole chapter in our history about Death Jester.
No one's laughing.
Yeah.
I think sanity is an element, like, to determine that debate, there has to be a definition of sanity that is agreed upon.
Currently, if that the agreed definition is that if you want to kill yourself, you're not sane and don't have the right to do so.
Right. So I would counter that and say, if you look around you and you're conscious, how can you not want to leave this planet?
Say that again. I missed part of it.
I said, and I would counter the argument of that definition of sanity, that, if you're insane, if you want to end your life, I would say, how can you look around you, be conscious, and not want to leave this planet? You have to be insane to stay here.
Absolutely. I totally disagree. The reason is that as someone who can see what's happening and who is relatively sane, I want to make a difference. If everybody that can make a difference, who's smart enough to see the trouble we're in, decides to check out, then who's going to be around to provide the solutions? Who's going to be around to, someone's got to be around to change my diapers when I'm old.
Who cares? So again, like, for me, this whole spiritual aspect brings up to me the element of finite and infinite. And if we're believing in spirituality as an infinite element, then there really isn't any trauma involved with the ending of this physical realm. I tend to lean more towards the what I'm familiar with of the Aboriginal train of thought from Tasmania and Australia, the indigenous people there, and they call what you and I are experiencing right now dream time. This is illusion, and the other end is really what's going on. Like when we're asleep and dreaming, we're actually we're closer to what is real in that time than now.
Yeah, I've heard this before, that the physical manifestation of being is another layer of illusion. It's not the truth.
Right. And I think A Course in Miracles, which has come up more than once in our podcast here, reiterates that.
Right. And then what's the point of being here?
Exactly. What is the point?
So here's my take on what the point is.
To own a Falcon guitar and learn how to play guitar.
Well, no, it's to the reason so many souls are clamoring to be alive, especially in our time in the physical, is that there's certain things that happen only in the physical that are related to the spiritual evolution of the spirit. So you have to actually be in a body, have moral dilemmas, and be able to make choices based on that corporeal existence to evolve your karma. Because when it's the ethereal, there's no grist there. It's like playing blackjack with chips that you didn't have to buy. It doesn't matter. But when you're in the physical plane and you're faced with moral choices, and your soul evolves based on how you handle those moral choices. So everyone has to come here in order to experience that, and in order to evolve in the karmic plane. And so that's the gift of life, is to come and be here and have to make these choices. And so to me, the way I see it is, if you get to a point where the choices you're facing are such that you're contemplating taking your own life, well, one, I have a lot of compassion for you, and who am I to tell you no? On one level, right? It's your life. And on another, it's like, well, and you're not really escaping, because this moral choice that you're trying to avoid by dying is going to come back the next time you incarnate. You're going to have to deal with it again. There's no escape, right? And there's a caveat to that, which I would say is based on the Judeo-Christian, or no, just the Christian idiomatic idea of the end times, right? Like there's a point in time where time stops and blah, blah, blah. And so we could debate whether that's true or not. And if that is true, then your theory of, well, if I'm going to end up coming back anyway, I can just go ahead and pick it up when I get back. And so why not take a vacation from life? Cool. Well, what if this is the last lifetime you were going to get? Because in 1,000 years, when you're going to reincarnate, there's not going to be anywhere to reincarnate to. What kind of spiritual evolution would you have wanted to have achieved in this life?
What kind of loving creator would create a game that those beings that are loved lose?
Well, I'm not talking about winning and losing. I'm talking about whether or not there's a physical plane that's available.
Yeah. So for me, my faith and belief is our creator, the divine creation of life, created us perfectly. There is no karma involved. It's like the prodigal son story comes close to what I'm attempting to communicate, that when we get to the end of this karmic road, there will be like, oh, you didn't really even go on that road. It never really existed. And glad you're back to consciousness. Glad you woke up.
So awakening from this dream of physical reality is what you're describing, right? It's
right.
Like
duality and karma and all these elements of better than the moment before, further along than the moment before, is implying created imperfectly.
Interesting. Then there's no reason at all. There's no purpose at all.
But to be happy.
Okay. So when you're no longer happy, you should be allowed to check out,
It's your choice for sure. It's no one else's choice.
right? Okay. We're basically tossing out, Buddhist theosophy, Buddhist theory, which is this idea of evolving karmic, and Hindus probably, and a bunch of stuff I'm not qualified to talk about, but I think that the idea of end times is a fallacy. I think that there's always going to be physical plane opportunities to incarnate, and that that the reason we come to do that is because there's very specific nutrients available to our, what I'll call our soul, that are only obtained here. So back to your point about, well, why would the creator create an imperfect reality where we would need that? I don't know that I have enough skill to answer that question very well, or that I wouldn't just be talking out my ass, but I'm tempted to try.
I thought you were going to dive into it. Here's what I believe, that I think the end of times is communicating about one who's truly living eternally in consciousness. Every moment is lived in the moment of now, which is eternal. So time disappears because it is a part of this physical plane. It's illusion. And when fully conscious of eternity, then it's the end of times. Time doesn't exist anymore. And that's what I think the analogy of end of times.
Why would you bother to even create this physical plane? What would
That's
be
a great question for those who have created it. And I'm not separating myself from those. I'm part of them. Like, I don't know why.
I think it's more in alignment with what I described. Is that you need an arena for spiritual evolution to exist in order for that evolution, where we could become timeless entities that are fully realized in our capacity to love. For the miracle to occur, there has to be a training ground for, or because, the biblical terms are, we were cast out from the garden and now we're trying to get recreated or whatever. That's just an allegory to me. I don't to take it literally, but the framework that I'm operating from, the delusions that I'm operating from in my little skull cavity, are that the idea is that creator moved part of itself into the physical plane that is of itself, so that it could experience impermanence itself and have compassion for us as part of love. And that therefore we learn compassion for each other as creator learned its compassion for its creation as well. And that there is a space, a physical reality, in order for each individualized soulness to have the evolutionary process take place. Otherwise, if it was all just Maya, we'd be purposelessness, which might be true. That might be the truth, that none of this matters, and that literally drinking yourself to death is probably a good idea.
Exactly. Well, I don't know if it's probably a good idea. For me, it
hurts.
Not.
From what I understand, it hurts. Like, I drink a beer and it's too much pain for me. I'm like, headache.
With this individual who's in the process of kicking the bucket, as it were, has gone through the past decade, has been horrific. Beaten numerous times while they were homeless and living in parks and waking up in bushes and shoes missing and their stuff ripped off numerous times. Just painful. And that feeling of homelessness is really not a quiet place of solitude and peace.
There's no wine in heaven. There's no orgasm in heaven. There's no physical like body to experience all that.
But so okay. But I'm sorry. Well, here's one thing that occurred to me earlier. You and I are very close in our belief of life, but we're not on bullseye for each of, like there's elements of us debating a bit with each other, but overall we're like pretty much in agreement of life and purpose and sticking
We're
around.
both drunk on A Course in Miracles. Yeah.
Yeah. That was good. So, like, I'm sure someone could be listening to us and just going, what a crock of shit. And that to me is the element of, like our friend Mike has said about the big question mark, always keep the big question mark overhead. Like, who am I to say what is real to another individual? That's a choice for me to decide for myself. And even, with the people involved with my divorce, there has been many a moment, and I think I'm at my best where I'm at a place of supporting their choice for what they did, that no matter how painful, I would not take away their individual choice in anything about their life.
Yeah, that's love.
Yeah. So from that place, we just got to support, like if someone's like, I'm done, and that's where they're at. Okay.
Or not. And we could say, no, you got to stick around because I want you here. And anything, you would be violating my choice if you killed yourself.
And I'm selfish. So I'm going to put you in this cage and feed you water and bird seed. And I know you're meant to fly, but you've got this 3 foot by 1.5 feet area.
Well, and what's true is we have no control over it. Like, the day after we convince someone who's suicidal not to check out and they'd say, okay, man, I'll hang out. Something good might happen. They could get hit by a train.
Yeah.
Right. There's no,
and that kind of goes
they stick
back
around and then you die.
Right.
And they're like,
oh, you fucker. Oh, so you needed me for another 48 hours, huh? Fuck you.
Last one through the pearly gates is a rotten egg.
But that to me supports my desire to choose for myself, to dance, to be wild, to be free, and continually choose that, to continually choose gratitude for my life and those in it and the things about it. And it's hard sometimes, like today wasn't a great day, a whole mess of shit, flat tire, injured myself working out, ended up having to babysit dogs, didn't get any of my own personal work done, just done. And so, yeah. So now what?
Time to take up drinking.
Put the bullets back in the drawer. See how it is tomorrow.
See, that's the thing, is like there's so many like choices between now and bullets, right? Like
give me back my bullets.
Like, can we try like 2 ounces of weed and 4,000 Twinkies first? Like, what? That might be fun.
A friend of mine thought that before someone takes their life, they should either masturbate or jump in the ocean. He felt that both those choices had the same ability to crack through one's shadow and shine light into being alive.
Remind me not to go to the beach with this guy.
He's dead.
Well,
Yeah,
you
he killed
signed me up for
himself last
that.
week.
Really?
No, not really, but
Oh,
he is
thank God.
dead. He is dead.
But I think it's an interesting thing to consider. It's like before you do that, like just try this physical experience that you'll be missing and see, like, right? Right?
Yeah, I think both have a positive shock to the system.
A positive shock. Hmm. Well, and what about these kids living in India who like their whole existence is combing over the trash heaps to get food?
Yeah. What about the existence of the kids who are going into the mines to get the minerals needed for your iPhone?
Or
You
my
fucking
Teslas?
white liberal NPR listening bitch.
Wow. A lot of hostility there, Greg.
Yeah. Yep. I
Thank you.
admit it.
All right, that's good. Um, what kind of gratitude is available to the person you're talking about in the mind? Like they're what they're grateful for. If you put it on a scale next to what we're grateful for, it might seem like it's not a
I don't
balance,
think
but
they
their
are
experience
grateful.
of gratefulness is the same.
Well, okay. I think the opportunity for gratitude exists in all situations. Just like um, not Desmond Tutu, who was the first president, Mandela.
Nelson Mandela. Yeah.
Nelson Mandela learned gratitude while imprisoned with, being abused and all this chaos. So all of us have the potential to learn the higher ground, as it were, in any situation. It's a lot to ask of an 8-year-old, 12-year-old who's going down into a mine, enslaved, working 12-hour, 14-hour days, beat if they don't bring up enough shit. And that's kind of,
I agree.
yeah, and so I can see how someone sits with that, like, wow, that's going on right now. Right now, that you can name off a dozen atrocities imagined and probably happening. And one can spiral into a deep depression and go, why am I here? This shit has been going on since Adam raised a Cain.
Okay, so let's ask each other the question. Why are you here, Greg?
It was on my calendar.
Okay.
Why are you here, Mark?
I'm here to serve and to learn.
I'll take chocolate shake, uh, burger, no onions, and fries.
Do you have Postmates?
No, but I have Dasher,
Okay.
DoorDash.
There you go. You're all set.
That was your service, is tell me to use an app. You're not going to
Be a
bring me.
lot better. Like by the time I get the thing and drive it to your house, it's going to be cold.
Yeah, but I'd be hanging out with you in person.
Well, there is that.
Besides, you can pick it up at the In-N-Out that's just across the freeway from where I live.
Oh,
Don't have to buy it where you live.
that'd be really inconvenient for me, though.
Well, driving down here is inconvenient already. So why are you
See,
complaining
now we're getting
about?
there. See, there's a person from DoorDash or whatever that's close to you, and so the carbon emissions would be even lower if you use them than if I did it.
Yeah, but it'd be more expensive. And right now, my finances are very tight.
I see. So if I paid for it, that would be of service.
Yeah.
Okay.
For those of you listening, Mark has not yet got up from his chair, gotten his car keys and his wallet. It looks like it's nothing but a good idea.
Well, I was just thinking I could Venmo you the cash and you could then DoorDash with that.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. It's very kind.
It's been a long time since you had a hamburger, hasn't it?
No, I just had one yesterday. Oh, you mean a real hamburger, like
Oh,
a beef hamburger,
well, what do you call a hamburger that you had yesterday?
a vegetarian burger?
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't say vegetarian burger when I
So
said
when I
that.
say burger, hey, do you want to get a burger? That's what I picture. I don't even picture a beef burger anymore. It's just a
Yeah.
burger. I guess I do picture it because I acknowledge that if I say to Jonah, hey, you want to go grab a burger? I know he's probably going to get a beef burger and I'll get a
Hockey puck.
vegan. No, they're really good. Amy's burgers are delicious, and Super Duper makes their own vegetarian burgers, and they are delicious.
I will try one next time I'm at Super Duper. They are amazing. Super Duper is the best.
Yeah, and they're right near you, aren't they? There's one up there. Yeah, their vegetarian burgers are awesome.
I will try one next
time. Their pickles are too spicy for me, so I like to put my own pickles in because I love pickles with burgers.
Which brings up the question, if you were going to kill yourself, what would your last meal be?
Tomorrow.
Your last meal would be tomorrow?
Each day you asked me, so what would you like for your last meal? I'd like it to be tomorrow. And every day. So, okay, what would you like your last day meal to be today? I'd like it to be tomorrow.
Okay, I like that. That's a great answer, because I was expecting like, oh, I want like this special like Thai food from this place that I went to in New York, and like the mochi from Whole Foods in Nepal, and like
the breath of the moth from the jungle Amazon tree. I just offended somebody on the planet. Thank you very much.
And now they're going to kill themselves.
Or me. That just brought up the horror of the person who loses it, takes out their family and then themselves.
Yes.
Atrocities coming to you on 6:00 news. Atrocities and drama, 6:00 tonight. Be there.
You know what? That's part of what's feeding all of this mental illness is that's what stimulates advertising and eyeballs on the news.
Yes.
Like there's got to be a show that's the good news. Like maybe we should do a 5-minute segment every time. Like tonight,
our good news.
Moped Outlaws, the good news segment.
Have you seen that newspaper that's called Good News or something like that? Like it's all positive stories.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I saw it 15 years ago or something, and it's still around. I think there's a website for it. And guess how much traction it's got? They're struggling.
I heard the owner killed himself.
Yeah, but he didn't make his newspaper. They left it off. No, we can't print that.
No, it's the best news ever. His kids are inheriting the newspaper. They're happy.
He was a bastard.
Always talking about good news, always spoiling it. Oh,
little Pollyanna bitch walking around. Hey, have you
heard 9/11? He was
lately?
talking about how the cripple walked.
Wouldn't that be funny to have like a boardroom
challenged person walked?
A boardroom meeting that's highly volatile about good news. You know, Mark, do you have any good news today? Well, sir, I saw a man helping an old lady across the street. We did that story twice last week. We need some new good news. What the fucker's going to catch you guys get good news?
I'm frozen like a deer in the headlights.
Our subscriptions have gone down 28% since last May.
Well, you gave me a 15% raise. That's good news.
Yeah, you're fired.
The good news. Is that a newspaper or is it just it's an online thing? The good news.
Christmas Carol. Have you heard the good news? Baby Jesus walking on the water. Baby Jesus winning at the blackjack table. Baby
buying drinks for everybody now.
That reminds me of that picture that said Drew about God's so cool he wears reflective glasses while playing poker.
Wait, I don't get it.
Straight flush every time. Doesn't need the royal flush. He knows he's going to win. She knows she's going to win.
That reminds me of a joke.
What joke?
So Noah, Jesus, and God are playing golf.
I've heard this joke.
All right, there we go.
It's good. Show off.
It's just like you get to a point where you just say punchline 27 and people laugh, and it's like, okay, no need to tell the joke. Yeah. Right now there's a bunch of people listening to this podcast who are going to be like, dude, what happens when Noah and Jesus and God play golf? I don't know. I'm dying to know. Well,
Google it. Send us $20.
What's the address?
The hosts at mopedoutlaws.com.
There you go. And I'll tell you the joke.
Yeah. You know, who's really good at like old jokes is Norm Macdonald. He just can draw a joke out for hours, and the punchline, you're just like, oh God. And
you just know the punchline already, but he's still telling the story.
No, I don't know the punchline. It's just,
okay.
But it's like it's like a one-liner, but 6 minutes go into the setup.
Which is the key to filling time if you're a comedian. How do you make the setup as entertaining as the punchline?
That's the thing, and he's super good at it. Have you ever seen his stand-up bit? I think like Hitler's Dog or something like that.
But I'm definitely gonna Google.
It's on Netflix. It's brilliant. It's really
Norm Macdonald, Hitler's Dog.
Yeah, it's one of his. It's just a couple years old.
Well, I can't kill myself tonight. Then I'll have to go watch that.
Awesome. Hey, is it okay to ask what came up that you wanted another hour? You can say it's not relevant.
I will tell you.
All right.
So just for everyone that's listening, the background was at about an hour or so before we were set to do our normal Moped Outlaws recording session, I sent a text to Greg and said, oh, would you be willing to do it at 8:30 instead? And he was like, well, I kind of have a client. And I'm like, well, never at the regular time. And the reason I was asking for that is because the band Dead and Company are playing right now live on the internet, and I wanted to listen to their second set from New York, and which is why when I asked, and Greg said,
"Hey,
no,
now I'm going to kill myself."
Well, at least I won't lie to you.
The Grateful Dead are dead, and we're grateful.
Yes, well, Dead and Company are still with us, and they're badass.
That's actually from that National Lampoon record we were talking about last week, The Lemmings.
Yes. The Grateful Dead and Dead, and we're grateful.
Yeah.
I'm Chevy Chase, and you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, what's this I heard about Gilda Radner being deaf?
Oh, Dad.
Oh, never mind.
That was a nice Gilda Radner. What do you call it?
Callback?
No. Like where you're giving props to someone. Nice Gilda Radner. I don't know.
Well, now that Gene Wilder's dead, we can finally tell Gilda Radner jokes.
Gene, now there's a guy, have you seen the interview of him? Like, he's pretty old, and it's on one of the late night shows. And so I'm not sure how much of this I'm making up, but there's an element of him where part of the brilliance of his performances was there was a lot of pain that one sensed in him. And through that, he still arrived at joy and laughter and love. And that, to me, is the challenge of life.
Wow. You don't get that if you kill yourself. If you don't persevere, you don't get that.
Yeah, that's not the punchline that I'm going for.
I'm a big fan of his work. I realized recently that I could no longer watch the movie Young Frankenstein and laugh anymore because I know all of the jokes too much. and that's really like that. I watched it a bunch of times, and I loved it. And that movie, I laughed so hard in my teens. And so if you are somebody listening to this podcast and you're like, Young Frankenstein, what's that? And you've never seen it, don't bother, because it's boomer stuff and you won't laugh.
About Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, I didn't get that one.
Oh, really?
For me. Yeah, I watched it, but I was like, no.
What about the first Richard Pryor and his train one? Where they're on the train.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like everything I've ever seen him do is funny.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
That was more of a drama to me. It wasn't really a comedy to me.
But it had his comedy in it.
Richard Pryor's comedy? What's that?
No. I'm talking about. Yeah, you remember that part where the kid catches on fire? The glass pipe?
Yeah. He's spinning up the cotton candy and he catches fire.
Yeah, and there's a glass pipe he goes up.
Oy. Yeah. There was a Richard Pryor and a Gene Wilder movie.
Yeah, there was a couple of them. One was they were cons together.
Right.
One was, though, this train, like they're on a train.
Yeah,
it was hella funny.
I know the one you mean, but I can't remember the title.
I don't either.
It's such a memorable movie, though.
Yeah, brilliant. The plot twist at the end really stuck with me. God, how old were we when that came out? Probably like 13.
Yeah, we were teenagers, for sure.
Well, we were teenagers for a long time.
Well, I was teenager for 35 years.
Yeah, some would say we still are. You're immature. You're immature.
So, what are you going to do about it?
I'm going to kill myself.
Can I watch?
Don't be afraid. You're already dead.
This brings up this whole idea of, if we're just going to be unlimited and have whatever like freedoms we want, like we're getting to the point where the Suicide Channel would be like a huge TV lure, like reality TV to the 10th degree.
I was thinking like how the Runaway Man and Battle Royale, these dystopian stories of entertainment, like gladiators, entertainment with people's death. Like I could see that coming back. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just a matter of time.
Don't be afraid. You're already dead. Oh man.